Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a card project that features a couple of very small and affordable stamp and die sets. I love small stamps and dies because they have a great price point, but I'm going to show you how to kind of put these together to really make an impact on the front of the card. I'll be using the Nestled Whimsy Mini Delight set from Altenew. This is a part of their subscription program, but it can also be purchased separately. And all of these products, by the way, are a part of the brand new December 2025 release from Altenew. I'll also be using the Sweet Spray product suite. It includes a embossing folder as well as a stencil set and this adorable little stamp and coordinating die set. I love that there's dies for even those small little sentiments in the set. I'm going to start out with the Nestled Whimsy Mini Delight, and I am die cutting this nest from some white cardstock. I decided rather than try to dig out 4 different colors or 3 different colors of brown cardstocks, I would just die cut it from some white cardstock and then ink blend on the colors that I wanted to use. I'll also die cut the 2 little eggs that are included in this die set from that same white cardstock. I should have just totally done this in one pass. But I didn't think about it at the time. And I love that this die set creates little impressions in the egg as well. Now I have my grip mat here, and I am going to use 3 or 4 different colors of brown inks here. I'll have all of them listed in the YouTube description below to add color to my nest. So for the largest piece, I'm using espresso ink, and then I'm moving into Rocky Shore and Sand Dunes. I also think I brought in some mocha here. So I'm using that entire coffee break line of fresh dye inks to color the nest. Now for the eggs, I'm using one of my new favorite inks. It's Shattered Shell, and I'm combining it with a little bit of Dusty Rose on the edges. This creates the most beautiful glow. I love it so much. So now I have all of these die cut pieces that were all created using white cardstock, and I am going to create a couple of floral sprays using the Sweet Spray stamp set. So I've brought in my Stamp Wheel 2.0 and some more white cardstock, and I decided to stamp these in espresso ink, kind of sticking with that very brown, earthy feel that we have going on with our images. I'm going to stamp this twice using my Stamp Wheel 2.0, and then I am going to use the coordinating stencils to add color to both of these images. You'll notice that when you're using smaller sets like this, there's a couple of strategies that you can use. Number 1, you can repeat the elements. So in this case, I'm using 2 of the Sweet Spray stamps in order to kind of fill out my card. Another strategy that you could take is to kind of crop in your card front. So to make a smaller card front on an A2 size card base. So instead of using a 4 by 5.25 mat, you might want to bring it into like 3.5 by 5, and that kind of crops in the area that you have to fill and makes it a little bit easier to use some of these small images. I've started my stenciling on these images, and I'm only going to show you one of these because I'm doing both of them in the same way. But for the florals, I'm using a combination of that Shattered Shell and the Dusty Rose. For the detail images on the florals, I use Dusty Rose on its own. And for the greens, I'm using Silver Sprout and Sage Stone. I love these kind of grayed down blues. They're so beautiful. There's also some darker colors in these same green family that I love so much. Now for the center of the florals, I used butternut and a micro blending brush to add just a little bit of color to the center of the florals. Now that I have both of them stenciled, I'm going to use the coordinating die and die cut both of these images. Now I'm going to use these smaller sprays to kind of frame out my nest. Again, I'm working with small images, and so I want to bring the focal point to the nest, and I'll do that by kind of framing out the nest with these colored floral sprays. You can see I'm assembling the nest here using some liquid glue on the layers, and I'm starting with the most solid piece and working up to these kind of finer pieces that sit in the front. I added the eggs using some foam adhesive, and now I've decided to kind of repeat the element again, but this time I'm going to make it more of a background textural piece. So I have the sweet spray stamp, again, a small stamp that I can use multiples of, and I am placing it along the bottom of this panel that measures 3.5 by 5 inches. I'm inking it up using Sand Dunes ink and using my Stamp Wheel 2.0 to stamp it along the bottom right-hand side of my card front. Again, I've cropped in this card front so that I don't have as much space to fill. I'm framing out that small little nest and bringing attention to it with those two colored and die cut images. And then I'm going to stamp this sweet spray stamp again along this upper left side using that Sand Dunes ink again. So this is kind of filling in the background just a little bit. It's not quite as focal as the two colored and die cut images. Now that I have my card front prepared, I'm adding my two die cut floral sprays using some foam adhesive, and I'm also using some foam adhesive to attach this adorable nest. Now, when I saw this, it is not a common thing for me to use birds or nests, but I loved this little nest so much that I just had to use it. By the way, I wanted to let you know that this video is a part of a video hop celebrating the new December 2025 release from Altenew, so be sure to check out all the information about the giveaways and the video hop in the YouTube description below. I'll also have links to all the products I used in this project there for you to check out. Now I've done a little die cutting for my sentiment. I have this hello and hugs. This is from the Versatile Greetings 1 die set, I believe. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it will be linked below. And I've die cut it from some white cardstock, and I'm doing some blending again with that Shattered Shell and Dusty Rose. I die cut 2 additional layers to add some dimension behind this, and so I'll add some liquid glue to those plain white die cut layers on the front hand side or the front side of those, and then I'll stack the ink blended piece on those layers to give it just a little dimension. And then once that's stacked up, I can add it to the shadow layer, which I have die cut from some vellum, again, using some liquid adhesive. Now, sometimes liquid glue takes a second for it to adhere onto a slick surface like vellum, so I'm just holding it in place while that liquid glue kind of takes hold. And then I'm adding this die cut sentiment onto my card front using, again, some foam adhesive. I've added this entire card front onto a craft card base. This is an A2 card base, so it measures 5.5 by 8.5 inches, and I've scored it at 4.25. I've curled up some of those little loose leaves on the edge of those sweet sprays, and that finishes off my card for today that features a lot of smaller images. I hope that you've picked up some tips and tricks along the way for using some of these smaller stamps and die sets on your card projects. As I mentioned before, I will have links to all the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube, so if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there. I'll also have all of the details for the video hop that's happening today, celebrating this brand new release from Altenew for December 2025. I want to say thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I'm so glad you're here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of my card making and paper crafting video tutorials, as well as my Carissa Crafts live stream broadcasts. Don't forget to say hi in the comments below. I love it when you do. Thanks for stopping by, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.